with no more funny business. So I had a channel message earlier today that came through when I was in prayer and meditation. There it is. And I guess that's part of the message, that takes place today is the things that are being prepared, before you. You have the tools and the ingredients to make things occur and make things happen. But at the same time, you're not working those ingredients. So you have the tools and you have the ingredients to bake the cake, but yet you refuse to bake the cake. And that's part of the message here today, is part of this. So, yes, so you're being more called to be more self-actualized, more self-independent than you realize, not only spiritually, but physically at this time being, because spirit's at this point where it's like, no, I can't say that. It's like, okay, I can say that one. Shit or get off the pot. And it's basically you're in this spot because you have the ingredients, you have the tools. And if you don't have the tools, then you know the places and the spaces to go to receive those tools. Being prepared through for your breakthrough, your story, God's glory. Preparing your spirit, whether it's healing, revealing, or a breakthrough. So when you're in preparation for your spirit, you're being prepared for healing taking place, revealing taking place, or breakthroughs taking place. God speaks to you through silence. God is not asking you if you are ready. God is doing a new thing and moving you when you don't even realize what you're being made into. God does not wait for the right time. God makes the divine time. This goes back to Habakkuk in 2:3. And it says spaces between preparation and fulfillment. Now, this is not the verbiage in which the specific word came from. This is the breaking down of what that physical word was written in that scripture on a different level of understanding for those that need to understand what those things mean in revelations that they bring. Spaces between preparation and fulfillment. The vision will be fulfilled. The vision is maturing. It's where trust is made real and character is built. The blessing requires a prepared heart that's been built on stilts. And if you think of stilts, and if you've ever walked on stilts, you actually really understand how stable they actually are when you have the balance of the in-between, the balance of you, the balance of the sacred divinity, the balance of what walks with you and through you. And this comes back to of those things that have grew you is what's being said to me on a whole nother level of energy and frequency. And they say cosmic dreams. So a lot of people are now having realizations about themselves at that in-between space. There's more astral work that's taking place, which means there's going to be more realizations and initiations that take place upon the quote-unquote human race, because you are coming back to the beginning and the becoming of what was, not what really is and what could have been, but coming back to what should have been and what is new and what filters through each and every one of you. And call it what you want to, your breakthrough, your make through, your revitalizing, your rebirthing you. It all has the same energy that is being built in you and through you right now as the energy shifts for you through the realizations and the revitalizing dreams in aspirations. So, the energy is in multiple different places for you. So give me a minute here. Interestingly enough. Thank you. Okay. This is how I'm trying to draw out as best I can how they're showing me this. We have 3 levels of energy here in this room here today. So I'm going to speak to each of you on an individual level of frequency so that you can understand it for your being, your authenticity. So some of you you're going to be feeling what I'm saying in your soul. Some of you, you're going to be feeling it in your heart center. And some of you are going to be, thank you, be in your crown. Okay? So let me break this down for you. On a soul level, the glyphs exist in the soul. So there's a pulling and a vibration in your soul. You could call it the seeding. The divine is seeding you. This is the becoming within you. Okay? And so your soul is starting to remember the blueprint in which it was so very old. So you're starting to feel these, thank you, these ignitions and these pinpricks, these little things in your soul, these pulls in your soul. Okay? This is where you're going through a respect of a relationship phase for yourself on a soul level, because it was once where you neglected your soul, your identity, what became of you in your authenticity is not what those around you made you out to be. So you're revitalizing your relationship with self, with your sovereignty, with your soul right now. You're being pulled into your soul's mission or soul's destiny. There's a partition that's taking place for you, so you're splitting the veil. Okay, so a lot of people think that that veils, split here, but heaven has always been here. It's just the energy is way more what the fuck is it? Rampart. Like, I don't even know what that word means. Okay, it's like way more explosive because of the planetary alignments and because of how many are awoken is what was just said. And so this is where you're revitalizing the relationship with yourself and you're revitalizing the relationship with the divine itself. So this is about physical foundation, okay? The balance, because if the foundation of your spiritual identity is faulty, then that is where a lot of spiritual warfare is going to take place, okay? So you're remembering your soul's trace right now. All right, 44 and there is 45 now. So there's respect. There's a respect on a soul level that you're coming into. All right, will you take care of that? Because that's just gross. Thank you. All right, now in the heart space, for those of you that are in this place, there's a new vibration that is ensuing inside of you that is connecting through you in sacred divinity, but opening up to you of what it is and how it feels and what is the difference between what is really real is what they're saying here. So your eyes right now, they're peeling my eyes. So it's almost as if like layers are being peeled away from my eyes and it's opening up my heart space to be more accepting of opportunities or energies that are taking place around me is what they're saying here. Now, this is also where a lot of you are feeling a lot of pressure in the top of the head, in the crown. Okay, because of the energy that's coming down, that's penetrating that system to opening up that sound. So remember, everything runs on sound, frequency, vibration. So it's sound frequency that's helping you ground this down is what's being said to me. So when we say open up to that space, it means sit in meditation and open up that chakra center and breathe through, they're saying, the sanctuation. So you're the temple, your body's the sanctuary, right? So in that understanding, that's what they mean by that. This is for those that were in that in-between space where now it feels like something, you're in that new time space. You remember when we were talking about you kind of like splitting away from the old energy and you moving into this new, and that was like the last week or two, you were in that in-between. It's like you finally feel like there's this breath that you can take and you're not so oppressed, is what they're giving me here. So it might even feel like you're breathing more through your heart space here, or it's way more open and things are more clear. There's not this energy block or this emotional block on the heart space, okay? For whatever reason, there's a split here in consciousness on this third level. So we've got a 5D frequency that's running here in the collective on this level, and there's a 6D frequency that's in the room as well that's running on this level. Now, before anybody claims this, it doesn't matter. You're going to know exactly who you are by the vibration and by the reverberation and by the vision and what's channeled through me more for you to understand and know what that vibration is that's coming through. So you don't have to say anything to me. You don't have to out yourself anyway. It's not the point. The point is that the vibration is going to explain exactly who I'm talking to through the sensations in your bodies and your understandings. So there's no need to sit there and go, oh, this is for me, because nobody can claim a frequency. It's a feeling and a vibration that runs through the authenticity of it. So that's the difference here, is that it's not like a knowing, it's a feeling because of being spirituality rather than doing spirituality. Everybody's looking for God, and God is within because it's a feeling, it's a vibration, and that's where you begin. That vibration of that feeling of what you're trying to feel and connect to again is the very place and centeredness in which you call home. And it's so scary because it's so big and it's so powerful, but yet it's so breathtaking and so undeniable and so loving. And if none of you understand what I'm talking about, and none of you have had that experience yet, you will, without a doubt, with the frequencies that are coming through in the layers within you as you break through these layers and understand more about you on a multi-dimensional and human scale of existence between the veil, okay? So this is interesting. On the 5D level, they're giving me something about your nose. So it's like you're following. Okay, thank you. There's obviously some level of experience that you have with time, okay, where the time here is non-existent to you, which you are aware of, but yet time, quote unquote, plays out for you. And so what I mean by this is there are a lot of things that are happening to you that you have had specific visualizations, specific communications about, specific dreams or prophecies about your personal experiences, without a doubt, that are coming through right now through the seams of the level of the in-between. And so this is where you're very present tense in the experience of the authenticity of what you're seeing, what's being revealed, what you're feeling within the own being. They're saying you're partaking in nothing that is quote unquote real, because right now you're in a definitive layer where part of you exists on an external layer in the physical, but most of you right now exist from this temple layer of the temple through the third eye, through the crown, and here. So you're having to really ground down into this physical resistance of experience and type like kind of sometimes come back into body and take care of human reality, or remember that you're real, because there's a split right now that you're moving through in the 5D consciousness level and experience, in which is portraying outside of you. So this is where you understand the being of spirituality, where there's no fear, there's no anxiety. You are the one that chooses the experience, right? So you have an experience, but yet you choosing to label the emotional experience, or you choosing to label that experience, is what you've pulled away from to allow the authenticity and the revelation of the experience to exactly tell you where it's coming from, so that you have no emotional attachment to it, just the deliverance of what it is to have the experience. So it's just. There's no feeling, there's no vibration attached to it. It's just. And this is where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not really feeling anything, but I'm feeling such a high vibration of electricity inside between here and between here, but I'm not really feeling anything. Or there's been experiences that you have thank you, that you have explicited experience with, in which would normally have you quote unquote feel a certain way, react a certain way, but yet there's nothingness at play. Where are we going? 7. The reason that there's the different frequencies coming into the room is because of the fact is that I can match that level of vibration. So now there's a 7D frequency that has stepped into the room. Okay, so we're going to keep going until there's no more going, because the level of authenticity within me can go all the way up to 13. So it just depends on who comes in the room of the frequency that's aligning at this time to receive what it is that they need to receive. Okay, so we're moving on to 6. So we're moving on to 6. Okay, so 6, this is where you're really feeling the split. Okay, and the dynamic of what truly exists. And the split level is past the conscious level of existence. Okay, you're feeling the different ripple effects and the different shifts of the vibration that are electrifying within your body. You can feel every auric field, you can feel every movement, you can feel every sensation. So this experience is what we say is lighting you up from the inside out. You can see the physical power within your body. You can feel the electrifying feels. And yes, Yeshua is real. Thank you. And so the Christ is back, and the Christ consciousness within you is splitting the veils. And so it's inside of your body. And so the only level of experience that I can give you with this is in my own experience of portraying what that is and what that sensation is, and how you know you're in that vibration of and consciousness of that exists when you're awoken to the experience of it on a whole nother level. And so what I understand, thank you, and what I understand that you are going through in the existence is, let's say you feel this energy that comes inside of your body, and then what happens is it electrifies and magnifies within your body, where you have quote unquote, you can't control the energy inside your body that you're feeling is so powerful that you have to do something with it in that moment, and you don't know what to do with that energy in that moment. And with that moment, you're trying to breathe and process and ground down the energy that you're feeling, because when it hits you and then spreads out, and it electrifies and magnifies, and you see the level of electrifying sensation inside the body. The body is tingling inside the vibration, such as when the blood rushes to your head or when your foot falls asleep. It feels like that from the outside in revelation experience. And then if somebody comes into that experience, or an energy comes in, you can see the rifts of the colors of the energy from the outside in and the inside out. But also their energy and their movement will cause a ripple effect for your vibration to feel it inside, like your body is being magnified or electrified by that other spirit or individual that is coming into your experience at that moment. So then the ripple effect that they do by a movement, you will feel it go whoosh inside of your body. So therefore, when you are at the door of this level of experience, you're going to have it more and more and more. That's where the frequency of the Christ consciousness is about the being, not the doing. That's in the moment when you're receiving that process of energy to be connected to Christ consciousness and feeling that through your entire body on a physical level of existence. Because at that point in time, when you're at that level, everything is frequency, vibration, and sound. And so you can feel those things bumping around or trying to bump around your auric field. But where you feel them from is inside out, no longer outside in. And this is where the Christ consciousness begins, from the inside out, not outside in. Because the temple and the sanctuary is within. Remember, everybody kept trying to reach for God and reach for spirituality outside, but it is not outside, it is inside, and that's a part of the compromise. To keep you separated from the divinity of your sovereignty of where you began. No, I won't. Yeah, I know you're being silly, thank you, but no. Okay? Now, okay. Everything is seen in molecules and everything is seen in pixels when you're in this layer of 7D consciousness, and you have no problem becoming the physical item in which you are magnifying and multiplying your energy to become one with at that time when you were in 7D consciousness. So this is where it's where as if you are taking a transitional shift to another space, to another physical place, to another physical being. So it's where, let's say, for that vibration, if I wanted to become the vibration of one within my being, I would match the level of vibration of the lead and of the metal and of the molecules and particles, because I can see them down to that layer of existence. So this is where you can see everything vibrating in its existence on a physical scale here. But when you're talking about a multitude layer of consciousness, you can see everything pixelated, everything, the very fabric layers of being woven and being lit up. This is what, those things being woven in look like. So it's way past the understanding of a physical vibration, but yet it's the molecule sensation that you are becoming one with to have the experience or the sensation of what that thing feels like in reverberation. So you are then molding and shaping and merely becoming that thing that you are vibrating with. It's where you are able to see light and fractals and pixels and molecules. And when you look at something in a way of the vibration level, let's say a bird, right? It's not that you see the feathers and the wings and the eyes and the physical things. You see the particles and the molecules and the DNA that made up its existence here in a physical way. But if you took that shape and took that vibration into the consciousness of the level of existence on a 7th D level, you would see that energy in nothing but a vibrational experience of threads and colors and sound and vibration. And that's the difference between the weaving of the experience between the 7th and the physical. And there's nobody else here that can go up any higher than that level.
I mean, that is a beautiful explanation. Because
there's separation, so I had to speak it through.
Everything is energy, and we are basically energy in form, and everything is particles. So it's no surprise that when we go into meditation or when we're working with our auric field, we see that particle formulation, we see that auric field color, and it might even seem like sometimes you're staring through white noise at night when you're looking in the dark and stuff like that. And those are particle formations. That's your ability to see energy. It's kind of like God's eyes. You know what I'm saying? It's your ability to see yourself in a sense as well. And when it's the flow of the particles that I really enlighten me here before I get any deeper in this, because this is our creation. This is consciousness. Every particle that creates this entire universe is aware of itself. It's all connected. And we are all a part of that connection. And the more self-aware we become and the more we embrace this connection, not only the more do we discover about ourselves, but we realize what we're truly connected to. Mm-hmm. And it's the path and it's the journey. And what she was saying earlier, and I just literally want to put another spin on this, if you don't mind, baby.
Okay.
Because it's relevant to what we're speaking here. Where is that thing?
The 3 levels.
So, anybody seen a sheet of music? Has anybody ever seen a sheet of music and they have like bars? I believe they're called octaves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's the dimensional layers that we participate in, and depending on how we're feeling, we'll dance around the octaves, the sound waves, the frequencies, the vibration, right? And based on our match to this physical reality, which is on a linear plane, okay, which is on a flat, this is why it's physical, right? You vibrate at that frequency, and therefore your life is only changing based on the parameters of this level of your understanding, of your vibration, of your frequency, of your alignment, your awareness of the chakras, energy itself, consciousness, right? So the more aware you become, the less density remains, right? Mm-hmm. So the lower the density, the higher the rise, the higher the above, the easier it is to ascend, right? So it's almost as if the way the Spirit is showing it to me, it's like they implore you to practice this task, right? Which means in another way, because, you know, it's very spacey and very cosmic, it means another way. It's like you need to open up your heart to the levels of understanding and understand that this is part of the natural process of evolution and creation itself. Mm. You're following the natural path is another way of saying it, right? Mm. By opening up yourself to the creator, source, all that is, because it is also you, and it welcomes you when you welcome it. It matches you. It reflects you consistently. This is why shit sucks. It's because there's things inside of you that suck that you haven't come to terms with, or things outside of you that you internalize that suck, that keep you stuck. You know what I'm saying? And the more you open up and the more you rise and the more time you devote to your understanding, your higher self, yourself, and the God that is also connected to you, source, universe, whichever way, divine feminine, whatever, you know, that love and that compassion, the more you rise to see things clearly and clearer. And everything evolves. It's climbing the ladder, Jacob's ladder. That's another way of saying it.
And I just want to make sure that everybody understands when we speak here, because I don't like words to trigger people, especially in this space, because of the fact is that I'm trying to teach you how to get over yourself from a different point in place, okay? So when we talk about consciousness on a soul level, understand that one can't exist without the other, okay? If quote-unquote God, masculine, existed, then it would only make sense. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about Bruno, right? God had a wife,
counterpart,
right? But in that space, that energy which creates, which is the form of creation itself. We went over that with the form of creation itself with Isis. And if you didn't catch that live, you can go catch it on YouTube, okay? Which is the divine feminine creation itself of existence, okay? And now that feminine creation, energetic energy is now available to us because there are enough divine feminine awoken. And we're not talking about women. We're not talking about the unconscious. We're talking about the divine feminine awoken to reverberate that energy to the universal consciousness, to where the universal consciousness then replied back in frequency, sound, vibration to what we were displaying to it. It then was able to see itself, to rise above itself, to exist on a physical vibration and plane. And this is why now there's such a rise of the divine feminine in that space, because without without the feminine, there is no being able to look at things in a different perspective or a different way, or with grace, or with creation, or with love, or with compassion, without comparison, without jealousy, without judgment, with only an open understanding of the vibration in which being received. And so you can't have one without the other. And now this is where the energy of the divine feminine, the divine mother, is here to balance what it truly is. Because we've called for balance. We've asked for balance because we don't like the structure of the matriarchal system, and we don't like the structure in which what was built, which was never supposed to be in this physical reality. It's what was happening underneath our noses against our divine sovereignty without us knowing, because we didn't remember because of many things that took place. But now that you're reawakening, you're remembering. A lot of times people would always say you're awakening, and I that bothered me from an understanding, from a sage, from a leader space, because to me people were just reawakening to what has always been and what will always be and what they are within their own sovereignty of divinity. And so it's a sacred walk that you're doing, because in your own personal pathway, for you to remember from which you came, you're walking the pathway of the throne of Isis in which you're being shown. Or you're walking the pathway of Moses, or you're walking the pathway of Yeshua, or you're walking the pathway of Mary, because you're walking in the pathway of Christ consciousness.
The divine.
The divine. You can't have one without the other. Isis, Osiris, Nefertiti, Seth. Okay, in those spaces and places, Yeshua, Mary, it was all about the divine pairing. But they didn't want to mention the energy which would bring about the sovereignty and the divinity, and not separate the unity from within, which was the divine feminine. And now that that's all coming back online again, they can't stop the spiritual revolution or the spiritual movement that's taking place, because it's an internal intrusion, because this is what has always supposed to take place. So when we speak of source, so when we speak of universal consciousness, when we speak of God, okay, I want you to understand that you need to come from a place that when I say God, it's not one without the other. It's both places and spaces. Yeah. When I say source, it's not one without the other now. It's both places and spaces. So that sacred divinity of the energy that you are learning to breathe in and breathe out is where that sovereignty actually begins on a soul level of dynamic, of asking questions to yourself. Because it's always been said and told, ye shall seek, ye shall find in their own due time. And what that means is you don't quit having the experiences. You have deeper layers of revelations about the experience on multiple layers when you reach different levels of consciousness. Because that's where you reach yourself from an internal existence and experience to the deepest core from within and without. Okay? That's what I had to say. That's what they had to say.
But that is the ascension process in a nutshell. And it's kind of like, basically when we explain these things to people, especially in the mentorship space, everything is in succession. It's progression. It happens naturally, right? And during the process, you basically come to understand that you shouldn't be forcing yourself. You should be allowing, right? But from a place of discernment, which is your sacred space, the sacred you, to understand these things about yourself, your spiritual gifts, your awareness, why you do the things that you do, what you're actually truly attracted to versus what you think you want to be, want to do, know? And this is the byproduct and the natural process and the gifts that are associated with these things along the way. We tell a lot of people, the first thing you need to realize right here, right now, regardless of where you're at, is that you are a gift. How do you acknowledge that about yourself? How does that make you feel about yourself? Do you feel resistance? Do you feel fire? Do you feel choked? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel something inside of your body, any type of sensation that lets you know that you are being spoken to in that moment? You know what I'm saying? And that's where it all changes for you, because it doesn't have to have a voice. You know what I'm saying? That's human stuff.
Yeah.
That's not the spirit. That's not the embodiment of the spirit. It's not the perspective of who we are. But that's why you can hear the voices in your head. You are the awareness of all of them.
You can do that.
You know what I'm saying? And when you sit in that place and in that space, you come to realize that you are observing everything around you. Not that it has to turn into a whole science project, even though it'd be fun and cool. You realize that you are receiving knowledge, wisdom, information, the next step. Where am I headed? Where am I? What am I doing? You know what I'm saying? All these beautiful things are byproducts of that process. So we encourage people to understand these things about themselves and, even seek us for guidance, if you will, because it's all divinely led. And you'll notice another thing, and I'll close with this, is that all of these things are intensifying. It's all speeding up. It's all increasing. The more you allow, the more you can accept, right? And for those of you who are actually in that space where you realize that things are intensifying, it's because things are about to shift. And you get to decide where you want to be. And that's why this knowledge and wisdom is coming in so profoundly right now. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to have an opportunity to make a shift. And it's something that you can actually be grateful for, because up until this point, not a lot of people have experienced those things where they end up on a level of higher consciousness and awareness that does not allow you to be affected by the shit that used to ail you. And I believe that's important for a lot of people, because there is a possibility of ending any suffering that you encounter regularly by embracing this knowledge and this wisdom, right? How do you begin? That's a good question. I would strongly encourage you to reach out to us and see what comes up in that space.
I'll tell you how you begin. Breath work and meditation, becoming devoted, doing things differently, changing your routine, changing your habits, changing the way you do things first will help you reprogram and rechange the brain structure in which you once did things. So when people come to me and us for mentorship, the space in the in-between is what we work first. So we work with a level of changing things up, your rhythm, your routine. Look at your routines, your patterns, your behaviors. Those routines, patterns, or behaviors that do not feel good to you is what you need to change. So let's say you wake up and you always wake up late. Let's say you wake up and you always feel like you don't have enough time. Let's say you wake up, you don't even know why you're awake. Well, I'll tell you why you're awake. Because that time is for breath work. That time is for meditation. That time is for spiritual work within to revitalization. Okay? And so this is when you start to change your physical on the outside. This is where you have to start. You have to start and change your physical on the outside to then start and change the inside. But then the inside changes the outside eventually, and there's a switch and a flip that occurs eventually in the mind and the heart space when you start to look at things in a different way and in a different perspective. So if you always brushed your teeth with your right hand, do it with your left. If you always put your pants on this way, turn around and do it that way. If you always left and went in the car this way, change your routines. Change your habits. You will then start to have different realizations about things that just naturally happen. Then in that vibration, what starts to change and happen is you start to see things on more profound levels of perspective. You start to then realize, oh, well, that wasn't so bad to change this, but now I don't like that. So I think I'm going to change that too. And then it's a snowball effect that you go through of change, realizations, different emotions that you're peeling through, different vibrations. Now, see, you'll usually have one place, one space, one definitive fucking thing that is in your soul on a soul level, okay, that everything else comes back and attaches to. Every behavior, every emotion, every whatever, right? So this big thing right here was the catalyst. But then from that big thing, there stemmed this, there stemmed that, there stemmed that, there stemmed that. Because of this one experience, our brain And our bodies, all right, were in such a survival mechanism space, whatever that was in all of our existences, okay, that then reverberated that frequency outside of us. So then all these different experiences on that level of frequency happened to us. But we kept blaming spirit. We kept blaming God. We didn't look at us. We didn't look at ourselves on a soul level of where that came from, of where that hurt came from. And so I had this lady over here yesterday who loves to stop by and come over every now and then. God love her. And she stopped by yesterday and she goes, yeah, but you know what I realized is that, like, I have all these triggers that will happen, but it all comes back to this one experience in existence. And we're like, yes, because that's on a soul level. So that's part of soul restoration, or people will call it soul retrieval work, right? Where you're not really retrieving anything because the soul is already whole. You're restoring it to where that emotion and that vibration doesn't exist anymore on a soul level, on an emotional level, and in a mental process to keep you emotionally stunted at that level and mentally stunted. Because the emotional growth, the emotional mastery, the mental mastery and the vibration comes from the soul level of awarenesses within yourself. Then you start to become aware of everything outside of yourself. This is what we do. This is what I've been teaching for this 6 years that I've been on this app specifically, but for over 23 years in my physical plane. All right. And so this is the experiences that you had to realize that you were having, because it all comes back to this one thing. And I'll tell you what it comes back to. Your spiritual identity. Everything that came against you shook your identity. Because that's where the devil will attack you, shake you, break you, and you will feel forsaken. Because you don't know the authenticity, the sovereignty of who or what you are on a soul level. So it constantly attacks that level of existence within you, getting you to think you're the problem. See, this is why I also have a problem with shadow work. And that whole pumping of the IV of spirituality and shadow work that everybody jumped on the bandwagon in about a year and a half ago. Thank you, Bumblebee, 2 years ago. Because it got people wrapped into this cycle of always thinking that they were the problem and always thinking that they had to do all this internal work. What if it was spiritual warfare? What if it was psychic attack? What if those things were not always your accountability on your back? And this is why I also teach ecclesiastics in armed and armored spiritual warfare, in understanding what to do with it, what it is, and how it vibrates through you. So when you understand that maybe all these things you didn't necessarily accountability-wise attract to you, that it was the same energy being used against you in a different way to get you to wake up to the experiences that you were having in a different play to try to get you to see who you are. So that's the best way that I can tell you to start, in a very small-minded, very low-manneristic way, okay? So if you want guidance, if you want ecclesiastic work and certifications in healings and armed and armor and spiritual warfare and all these different things, you can check us out. The website is womboftheancientsun.org.